He changed his college application to follow another girl, assuming I'd follow him like always. He was wrong. While he chased love, I chased the sky. And by the time he realized I was gone, I was already flying toward everything he said I'd never reach. The deadline blinked at me in red on the computer screen. Final submission by 11:59 p.m. I triple-checked every section of my college application, my hands trembling slightly as I hovered over the submit button. Everything was perfect. GPA, essay test scores, and the major I'd been dreaming of since I was old enough to understand what my father had died for, aerospace engineering at Harbin Institute of Technology. I clicked submit. A breath left my chest that I hadn't even realized I was holding. For a moment I let myself feel proud. After all the late nights, the mock exams, the isolated weekends locked in study marathons while everyone else was out living, this was it. The first real step toward the sky I'd promised myself. The one my dad had reached for before it took him away. And for so long I thought I'd be taking that step with someone else. But that belief shattered, quietly, unexpectedly, just minutes later. I was walking past the senior study room ready to head home when I heard Brandon's voice. I stopped. It was instinct, like muscle memory. After all, for most of my life I'd been drawn to his voice like it was a compass pointing home. "She'll change hers," he was saying casually, like he was discussing the weather. "Maya always follows me. It's not a big deal." I blinked. Stopped walking. Someone laughed. "Didn't you two promise to apply to Harbin together like forever ago?" Brandon chuckled. "Yeah, back in middle school. But Sierra's nervous about going south alone, so I switched to shaman. She'll be more comfortable with someone she knows. And Maya? She has my login info. Once she sees I changed my app, she'll change hers too. She wouldn't want to be apart." My heart hit the floor. "She can't really live without me anyway," he added, a laugh laced under the words. The world tilted. It was that last line, the confident, thoughtless, condescending way he said it, that shattered me. And what gutted me even more? That he was right. He thought he was right. Because up until now I'd always followed him. From kindergarten to high school. From clubs to electives. From birthday parties to tutoring sessions. Brandon Ellis was the son I had revolved around for 18 years. And he never questioned it. He thought that bond gave him the right to make decisions for the both of us. I stepped back from the study room door, my legs suddenly unsteady. I wasn't supposed to hear that. He didn't even think it was necessary to tell me. The college application we'd dreamed of submitting together, the one we swore on in crumpled notebook paper and pinky promises, he had tossed aside like it meant nothing. Because a girl he knew for less than 2 years felt nervous. Me. The girl who stayed up with him the night before the physics exam, who let him nap on her shoulder during midterms, who kissed him under the stars on her 18th birthday. I was now a guaranteed fallback. An afterthought. A predictable reaction. I don't remember walking home. I just remember sitting on the floor of my bedroom staring at the blank wall in front of me, the memory of his words bouncing inside my head like a cruel echo. "She can't really live without me anyway." It was so arrogant. So certain. And worst of all, so familiar. Because part of me had played into it. Every time I put his needs first. Every time I didn't speak up. Every time I told myself it's okay, I'll apply where he applies. It'll be fine. Maybe I did teach him that I'd always choose him. But not this time. I didn't open the application portal again that night. Didn't look at his account. Didn't refresh mine. Didn't check to see if he really had changed his university to shaman. Because it didn't matter. I had already submitted. Harbin Institute of Technology, just as I'd always planned. I wasn't changing it. Even if he begged. Even if he promised. Even if he said it was just to help Sierra out. Because helping someone shouldn't come at the cost of throwing someone else away. I kept thinking about that night under the stars. My 18th birthday. We had gone up to the rooftop of the school's old gym after the rest of the party died down. It was quiet, just the two of us in the summer sky. Brandon leaned in, hesitant but sure. And when he kissed me, I thought, it meant something. Felt like our whole childhood had led to that moment. But now I wondered if he even remembered it. When my mom knocked on my door with dinner, I told her I wasn't hungry. She didn't push. She was used to me pulling all-nighters. Probably thought I was reviewing essays again or checking scholarship forms. Instead, I sat in bed, knees pulled to my chest, trying to figure out when things changed. Was it when Sierra transferred in our junior year? She was beautiful. Always wore flawless makeup. Smelled like designer perfume. Took selfies from perfect angles. I never hated her, not really. But I also never saw her as someone who could come between me and Brandon. Till now. It was just past 10 p.m. when my phone buzzed with a notification. A group photo. Someone had posted it to our class chat. There he was. Brandon. Sitting next to Sierra at a dinner table. Laughing. Smiling. My name wasn't mentioned. No one even noticed I wasn't there. Maybe they just assumed I'd arrive later. That I was always just a few steps behind him. But this time I wouldn't be. I opened a blank note on my phone and typed just 2 words. Harbin. Alone. Then I locked the screen. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel scared about not being by Brandon's side. I felt free. When we were 12, Brandon and I made a pact under the bleachers after science club. It had been a rough day. He failed a pop quiz and I accidentally spilled juice on my notes. We were both sulking until I blurted, "Let's go to Harbin Institute of Technology one day. Become aerospace engineers. Fly real missions." He'd blinked at me startled, then grinned wide. "Like rockets and satellites and all that?" "Exactly." He held out a pinky. "Promise we'll apply together." I wrapped mine around his. "Promise." We even wrote it down in pencil on the back of his math worksheet. Hit aerospace, together or not at all. We'd laughed at how dramatic it sounded, but I remembered that moment with a strange sense of reverence for years. That was our first shared dream. One not handed to us by school or parents. One that felt ours. Until last week I truly believed we were still holding on to it. The morning after I submitted my application I didn't speak to Brandon at all. He didn't try to talk to me either. But as I walked into homeroom I caught the tail end of his voice. Loud and joking as always, sitting with his inner circle by the window. "You guys don't get it," he said laughing. "Maya's basically been my shadow since we were kids. You know how clingy she is." The words hit like ice water down my spine. Someone snorted. "You mean like an actual puppy? Following you around for scraps?" Brandon let out a mock sigh. "Yeah. She checks her application like 80 times a day just to make sure she doesn't end up in a different major than me." They all laughed. I stopped in the doorway. "She probably thinks if she ends up in a different school, I'll forget she exists." More laughter. I stood there, invisible, frozen. Students pushed past me into the classroom, but all I could hear was the echo of his words. "Plea. Fido. Puppy." That's what I was to him. I didn't know how long I stood there before I forced my feet to move. I didn't sit next to him. I walked past my usual seat and sat next to Jenna in the back. She looked up from her physics notes. "You okay?" I nodded without speaking. She looked at me for a second longer, then gently closed her notebook and leaned in. "You're not okay. I know that face." I gave a weak smile. "I just need a break from routine." Her expression softened. "He's not worth your GPA, Maya." That made me laugh and it hurt more than I expected. During lunch I sat under the tree near the edge of the courtyard, the one Brandon and I used to lie under during exam weeks and complain about gravity being unfair to humans. He used to say it was our thinking spot. Now it felt haunted. I pulled out the wrinkled math worksheet I had kept all these years, hidden in a compartment in my phone case. Hit aerospace, together or not at all. I ran my thumb over the faded graphite. Apparently, not at all was the option he'd picked. That afternoon, our homeroom teacher called for a short meeting to give final reminders about college applications. The classroom buzzed with excitement. Laptops were out, last-minute panics over spelling errors, program codes, recommendation letters. I didn't open mine. Mine was already done. Instead, I watched Brandon out of the corner of my eye. Sierra was sitting beside him now, my seat. She laughed at something he whispered, brushing her hair behind her ear like she was auditioning for a commercial. Brandon didn't even glance at me once. But his words from earlier repeated in my mind, cruel and cutting. "She's been my shadow since we were kids." So clingy. Had he always thought of me like that? Even when he leaned on me for notes? Even when he stayed on the phone with me past midnight the week of his parents' divorce? Was I really just a habit he'd outgrown? I looked away, my stomach turning. After class I was packing my things when something cold tapped the top of my head. I turned, startled. Brandon was standing there holding a pudding cup, the exact kind he always bribed me with whenever he was in trouble. "Maya, come outside for a second?" I turned back around and kept zipping my backpack. I'm talking to you, he said, gently tapping the cup against my head again. Don't make me beg. I didn't respond. Jenna, sitting beside me, raised an eyebrow. You okay, or should I start throwing things at him? I smiled faintly. I'll be fine. But instead of walking outside with him, I ignored him entirely and kept walking down the hall. I made it halfway down the stairs when I heard his voice behind me. Why, kept going. He caught up and grabbed my wrist, not roughly but firm. Can you stop being weird for once? What is your deal? I yanked my arm free. My deal is that you're two-faced and I'm tired of pretending I'm not hurt. He blinked, clearly not expecting that. I didn't give him time to respond. You really think I'm just some clingy shadow? Someone who can't live without you? Brandon's mouth opened, then closed. I didn't mean it like that. We were just joking around. You didn't mean it? So when you said I'd check my application 80 times a day in case I lose you, that was a joke. He rubbed the back of his neck. Maya, come on. Don't be so sensitive. That word. Sensitive. Like the problem wasn't him, but me. I'm not sensitive, Brandon. I'm just not blind anymore. He exhaled sharply. Look, Sierra was nervous about going to school far from home. I was trying to help her. You know, she's been through a lot. And I haven't? I asked. He flinched. Do you even remember why I chose aerospace? I continued. Do you know why it mattered to me? Or did you think I picked it because you did? He didn't answer. I'm not your shadow, I said. I'm not your backup. And I'm not changing my school for anyone. Brandon looked like he wanted to say something, but I was already walking away. For once, he didn't follow. That night, I sat with Jenna on her rooftop. She had smuggled up a few cans of soda and a bowl of sweet popcorn. You really told him, she said, grinning. I laughed. I think I shocked even myself. We watched the stars for a while, the air surprisingly warm for early spring. I always knew you'd go to Harbin, she said quietly. I glanced at her. You talk about space like it's not scary. Like you belong there. I smiled. Maybe I do. Brandon doesn't deserve someone who chases stars. Maybe he never did, I murmured. The next morning I woke up feeling lighter. Not healed. But clear. Brandon could call me clingy. A shadow. A puppy. Whatever made him feel less guilty for what he did. But I knew who I was. I wasn't someone who followed. I was someone who launched. And the next time he looked for me, I wouldn't be in his orbit anymore. The day dragged. I went through the motions, classes, a club meeting, nodding through conversations I wasn't present for. My phone stayed on silent in my pocket, though I checked it more times than I care to admit. Brandon hadn't said a word since our hallway confrontation. I wasn't sure if I wanted him to. But that night, just before midnight, he finally called. A soft ring lit up my screen. Brandon Ellis. For a second I stared at the name like it was a foreign language. My finger hovered. Then I tapped accept. Maya. His voice came through low and tired, but still with that same familiar lilt. Hey, you still awake? I didn't respond. He took that as a yes. I wanted to talk. I know I messed up. He let out a soft sigh. I changed my application. It wasn't supposed to be a big deal, okay? Kara, she was scared. And I didn't want her to feel alone. Of course. I stayed quiet. But, he hesitated, I thought maybe if you saw I changed it, you'd come too. I mean, shaman's not bad. And if we're together, it doesn't really matter where, right? My stomach twisted. He was saying all the things I wanted to hear, but the timing was all wrong. I figured you'd be mad, he continued, so I didn't say anything at first. I was just trying to make things easier. For who? I asked, my voice flat. There was a pause. For both of us. I exhaled, quiet and sharp. Come on, Maya, he said softly. Don't be like this. Just think about it, okay? You hate the cold anyway. Harbin will be brutal. You'll get frostbite walking to class and I won't be there to warm you up. A laugh tried to escape his voice, like we were still teasing each other on our way to chemistry class. I'll come with you to shaman during orientation, he added. We can still go to the beach. Take those dumb seaside photos you always wanted. He was trying to soften the blow. Trying to make it sound like he changed his plans for me. But I wasn't stupid. I'd heard the truth. In the hallway. In his jokes. In the way he didn't tell me until he'd been found out. You changed your application, I said, and waited for me to follow. He was silent for a second too long. Then, you know me, Maya. I just assumed. Exactly. He assumed. He assumed I'd give up Harbin. That I'd run to his side like I always did. That I didn't have dreams of my own. But worst of all, he thought I'd never know the difference between love and convenience. I'll think about it, I lied quietly. Because I needed a moment to disconnect. To collect what was left of me before he pulled me in again. Okay, he said, relief flooding his voice. Hey. I knew you'd understand. Good night, Maya. Good night. I hung up. And stared at the ceiling wide-eyed in the dark. The phone buzzed 20 minutes later. Not a call. A notification. Jenna. Maya, check your feed. No. My pulse skipped. I opened the group chat. Scrolled. And stopped. There it was. Right in the center of the screen. Sierra Lynn had posted a photo, filtered perfectly in muted tones, warm lighting, a crisp white bedspread in a luxury hotel. And in the bed? A boy. Face turned halfway to the camera. Barely visible. But I didn't need to see the whole picture. I knew the angle of that jawline. The sharp cut of his cheekbone. The watch on his wrist. Brandon. My throat closed. But what hit harder than the photo was the caption beneath it. I walked 99 steps toward you. Thank you for taking the last one toward me. Below it, hearts, fire emojis, and finally, spammed the comments. And Brandon liked it. I stared at the screen so long my eyes burned. He had called me not even an hour earlier. Said he changed his school for me. Said we could take seaside photos and be together. Said he'd thought of my cold tolerance, my future. All while lying beside her. That wasn't just betrayal. That was theater. A show he put on with lines memorized and a fake smile stitched into every word. I didn't cry. Not this time. My heart didn't even ache. What I felt was worse. Numb. Like something in me had simply shut off, flipped the switch, powered down. I opened my settings. Blocked his number. Then I opened my application portal. Looked at the line that read, Harbin Institute of Technology, Aerospace Engineering, application submitted. And smiled. Because that was mine. Not something I built around him. Not something I did for us. Something I chose for me. For the girl who watched her dad board his last test flight and never come home. For the girl who asked, what makes the sky worth risking everything for? I finally understood. It's not about the cold or the flight miles or the rankings. It's about going where your soul points. Mine. It was already halfway to orbit. I typed a single line in my notebook that night. I'll chase my sky alone. Then I closed it. And slept. For the first time in weeks, I actually rested. I didn't unblock his number. Not after the phone call. Not after the photo. Not even after Sierra's followers flooded our class chat with campus couple hashtags and overfiltered reposts of their hotel bedpost fairy tale. I didn't need closure from Brandon Ellis. But he didn't get the message. 3 days passed. 3 days of side glances in the hallway. Of classmates whispering behind cupped palms. Of Sierra pretending to look regretful whenever I passed her in the courtyard. And then, on the 4th day, it happened. I was at my locker after homeroom when I felt someone tap my shoulder, a little too firmly. I turned. Brandon stood there, brows knit together, a pudding cup in one hand and his phone in the other. The same act again. Maya, we need to talk. I closed my locker. Seriously, he added, stop avoiding me. I'm not avoiding you, I replied flatly. I'm ignoring you. There's a difference. He frowned. Look, I didn't mean for things to go this way. I was going to tell you about changing my application, I swear. Oh, right. I crossed my arms. But Sierra beat you to it, with a photo of you in her bed. Bold communication. That was a misunderstanding. He started. Was it? I asked, tilting my head. Because I understood it perfectly. Brandon shifted his weight, lowering his voice. She's just emotional. I didn't want to embarrass her. So you lied to me instead? His grip on his phone tightened. Why are you being like this? Like what? I snapped. Like someone who just realized the guy she trusted for 18 years doesn't actually care about her unless it makes him look good? He looked genuinely thrown. Maya, don't make this into some big emotional thing. It is an emotional thing. Brandon scoffed. So what, you're going to make me the villain now? You're acting like I cheated or something. I didn't know how to handle both of you. There shouldn't have been a both, Brandon. We stood there for a few seconds, the hallway buzzing faintly around us. Friends, lockers slamming, announcements humming over the speakers. I just wanted to keep the peace, he muttered. No, you wanted to keep the convenience, I said coldly. He stepped closer, his voice dropping even lower. You know what? I came here to fix things. You didn't have to be so dramatic. I stayed silent. He held up my phone, the one I'd dropped into my bag carelessly earlier. Maybe I should hold on to this since you keep ignoring me anyway. Before I could react, he tossed it back into my open backpack, slammed the zipper shut, and walked away. Just like that. Like the conversation meant nothing. Like I meant nothing. I didn't follow him. Didn't yell. Didn't cry. I walked straight out of school, hands shaking slightly, and boarded the first bus home. I didn't go back for afternoon classes. I didn't check the group chat. I didn't even open my texts. I just sat there, numbly scrolling through my photo album, past blurry snapshots of our study sessions, the pizza place we used to frequent, the half-lit selfie he took on my rooftop after we kissed on my birthday. Delete. 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 When I got home, my mom was on a Zoom meeting in the kitchen, speaking in that clipped, professional tone she used when dealing with suppliers. She didn't notice me slip into my room. I sat on the floor, cross-legged, and stared at my ceiling. Maybe I'd been angry. Maybe I still was. But mostly I was tired. Tired of feeling small. Tired of waiting. Tired of letting someone else's choices dictate the arc of my story. I picked up my phone and searched for something I never expected to type. Flights to Hainan. One way. There was one that night. A seat left. Discounted. Without hesitating, I booked it. Didn't even blink. By the time my mom came to check on me, I was already halfway packed. Are you going somewhere? She asked, standing in my doorway. I need a break, I said quietly. Just a short one. I'm going to stay with Aunt Rachel in Hainan. Her eyebrows rose. Alone. She already said yes, I added quickly. And it's the rainy season, so there won't be any tourist crowds. My mom paused. She looked at me for a long time, probably trying to decipher whether this was rebellion or heartbreak. Maybe it was both. You're not running away from something, are you? She asked softly. No, I said. I'm running towards something. She didn't ask what. She just gave me a small nod. Send me your arrival info. On the way to the airport, I leaned my head against the cab window, the city lights blurring into streaks of neon. I thought about Brandon's face as he walked away earlier. Not guilt. Not sorrow. Just frustration. Like I had made things inconvenient for him by having emotions. And Sierra, always knowing when to show up, always knowing just what to say. I wasn't playing that game anymore. They could keep their performance. I was choosing silence. Distance. Peace. I landed in Sonia at midnight. The air smelled different there, humid, salt-touched, heavy with hibiscus. My aunt picked me up at the terminal, her bright scarf fluttering as she waved. Vacation face on, soldier, she joked, hugging me hard. You're not here to cry over boys. You're here for sun, sea, and shrimp skewers. I laughed, and it felt like exhaling for the first time in days. Her villa sat right on the beach. Waves crashed softly against the shore just steps away from her balcony. That first night I fell asleep to the sound of water and woke to the sound of seagulls. And in between something shifted in me. Not healed. Not fixed. But starting. On day 3, while grilling seafood under the stars with my cousin and her friends, I found myself smiling for real. The kind that makes your cheeks ache. I took a photo and posted it to my story. Caption. Midnight indulgence. Healing one grilled shrimp at a time. The notifications poured in. Jenna. Queen behavior. Classmate number 7. Whoa, where even is this? Leah. Invite me now or I'll file a formal complaint. No one mentioned Brandon. Thank God. That night I opened a fresh notebook and wrote across the first page. If 21 days can build a habit, maybe they can break one too. 21 days. That's all I'd give myself. 21 days to detox from him. From what we were. From who I used to be when I was just Brandon's shadow. Now I was just Maya. And that was finally enough. By the end of my first week in Hainan, I had a tan, a closet full of sundresses, and a cousin who treated my heartbreak like a personal makeover mission. You're too pretty to be miserable, Ava declared as she dragged me into her favorite beach boutique. Let's bring the outside in line with what's waking up inside. I rolled my eyes but let her have her fun. After all, she wasn't entirely wrong. Somewhere between the ocean breeze, endless seafood, and nights spent laughing until my stomach hurt, the fog in my chest started to clear. I still thought about Brandon sometimes, but not the way I used to. Now the memories came with more clarity than pain, more realization than regret. And every time I scrolled past a class photo or saw a post from Sierra, it didn't sting. It confirmed one thing. I wasn't that girl anymore. Ava booked my glow-up appointments like it was a wedding. New haircut, shoulder length with wispy bangs. Nails, soft coral pink. Hair color, a warm chestnut that lit golden in the sun. Eyebrows, finally shaped after years of letting them roam free. And makeup. Oh, makeup. This is what your eyes were always meant to look like, Ava said, dabbing champagne shimmer on my lids. You're a walking Pinterest board now. I laughed. But when I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized myself. Not in a bad way. The girl staring back had always been there, just buried under exam stress, oversized hoodies, and the need to make someone else feel like the center of her universe. No, I was the center. The next day, Ava took me to a quiet cove near her villa. The rocks were slick, the tide low, and the sun just right. She handed me her iPhone like it was a camera on a Vogue shoot. Stand there. Tilt your head. Good. Now look back. No, like you're about to turn away from your past life. Hick. The photos were stunning. Natural, effortless, golden. And before I could overthink it, she posted one to my social media account with the caption. Day 10 of 21. Healing looks good on her. It didn't take long. Jenna commented first. Excuse me? Who is this island goddess? Leah, Paya Thompson. I am on the floor. Hair, skin, vibes. Even a few of our classmates who never used to notice me chimed in. No way, this is the class rep. She just dropped the whole beach on us. The likes exploded. Shares, reposts, comments flooding in. Even Ava's boyfriend saw it and muttered, Brandon's gonna lose his mind. I didn't reply. Just smiled to myself. Of course, Sierra's friends couldn't resist. In the class group chat, one of them snarked. Wow, Maya. Didn't know filters came with a whole personality now. I almost ignored it. But Leah didn't. She immediately dropped a live photo I had sent her earlier. No edits. Just me in natural light, barefoot on the sand, smiling without trying. That set off a whole chain reaction. Another classmate replied, and she still looks better than 90% of us. Sit down. Even our homeroom teacher popped into the group. So the class rep had a hidden modeling career this whole time? Sierra's crew? Quiet after that. Later that night, Ava and I sat on the balcony sipping coconut water when my phone buzzed again. But this time it wasn't comments or likes. It was the email notification I had been waiting for. My acceptance letter. Subject line. Harbin Institute of Technology admission decision. I stared at it. My hands trembled as I tapped it open. Dear Maya Thompson, we are pleased to inform you that you have been admitted to the School of Aerospace Engineering. I didn't even finish reading it. I let out a soft, stunned breath and burst into tears. Ava blinked. Maya. I laughed through the tears, holding up the screen. I got in. She squealed, knocking her chair over and throwing her arms around me. You did it. You brilliant, beautiful rocket girl. I buried my face in her shoulder, sobbing harder. Not because I doubted I'd make it, but because all those years, every flashcard, every sleep-deprived practice exam, every ignored hangout invite, every time Brandon teased me for studying too hard, it had finally meant something. Harbin said yes. To me. Not because of him. Not as someone's shadow. But because of who I was, and who I was becoming. I took a screenshot of the email and saved it in a new album titled My Sky. Later, when I posted the acceptance letter to my story, I wrote, For the girl who chased the stars when everyone told her to settle. Jenna messaged me immediately, I'm crying. So proud of you. Lucas Hayes, a quiet guy from our advanced physics class, messaged too. Harbin. Aerospace. You're going to make history, Maya. Congratulations. I didn't know it then, but he'd become more important than I could have imagined. That night, as the waves lapped against the shore and the stars glittered across the black sky, I stood barefoot on the sand, holding my phone in one hand, my future in the other. Brandon hadn't said a word. No texts. No missed calls. Maybe he hadn't seen the posts. Or maybe he had, and just didn't recognize the girl in them anymore. The one who had let go of him. The one who chose the stars over the story they never finished. The message came while I was watching the sunset from the balcony, my feet propped on the railing and Ava beside me with a plate of sliced mango. Grandma's not feeling well. Can you come home this week? We may need to transfer her to a bigger hospital. I read the text twice. My fingers curled around my phone. The ocean breeze suddenly felt heavier. Bad news? Ava asked gently. I nodded. Grandma's sick. Might need surgery. Say no more. I'll help you pack. The flight home was quiet. No crying babies, no talkative seatmates. Just the hum of the plane and my thoughts, circling like birds that didn't know where to land. By the time I landed in H City, it was nearly 9 a.m. I pushed my luggage through the arrivals gate, exhausted and still dressed in beach linen. My makeup had faded. My curls were loose from the humidity. I just wanted to get to the hospital. And that's when I heard it. Why, I looked up. There, just beyond the sliding doors near the car rental counter, stood Brandon. He was holding a coffee in one hand and pulling his suitcase with the other, surrounded by a group of our old classmates. Sierra wasn't with them. For a second we both just stared. His eyes widened, actually widened, like he didn't recognize me at first. Why, he said again, louder now, almost disbelieving. I nodded politely. Hi. He took a step forward. You're back today too? His tone was casual, but I could hear the slight panic beneath it. I nodded again and kept walking, but he followed. Wait. You look different. He was scanning me like I'd stepped out of another dimension. I said nothing. He kept going. You were in Hainan, right? I saw the pictures. Everyone saw the pictures. I gave a small, polite smile. Looks like it. His friends lingered a few steps back, quiet for once. Watching. Maya, can we talk? He asked, adjusting the strap of his backpack. Just for a sec. Brandon, I said softly, I have somewhere to be. I didn't say my grandmother is in the hospital. I didn't say you're the last person I want to talk to. I didn't say you're too late. But he heard it anyway. He opened his mouth, but before he could speak again, I turned. My mom was standing outside, waving from behind the car window. Perfect timing. I wheeled my suitcase toward her. Behind me, Brandon stood there watching, the words stuck in his throat. As soon as I got in the car, my mom took the suitcase and frowned. Was that Brandon just now? I nodded. Did you two talk? I hesitated, then said, he tried. She glanced at me, her lips pressed together in a line. You've changed, she said. I didn't reply. She glanced at my phone resting in my lap and added, his mom called yesterday. Asked if you're still doing the graduation banquet with them. Said their whole family is excited. I turned sharply toward her. What? She assumed we were still doing the joint celebration. Apparently Brandon never told her anything. I stared out the window. We're not doing that banquet. Mom raised an eyebrow. You sure? I'm very sure. She gave a small sigh. I'll handle it. The hospital smelled like antiseptic and overused air conditioning. Grandma was awake when we arrived, though her voice was weak. Why, she whispered, squeezing my hand. You're prettier than I remember. I smiled through the sting in my chest. You say that every time. Well, it's true every time. The doctor explained she'd need to be transferred to a larger facility in Beijing for her surgery. Arrangements were already in motion. I'll go with her, I told Mom. She blinked. What about? I already deferred the trip to campus. School can wait. This can't. She didn't argue. Not this time. 2 days later we flew to Beijing. I didn't tell anyone. Not Jenna, not Leah, not even Lucas. Brandon tried to call once, through a mutual friend's number. I blocked it. And when his mom finally called mine again, cheerful as ever, she got a very different version of us than she remembered. Hi, Mrs. Thompson. I've been meaning to call. Just checking if Maya's available to come by the house soon? We're setting up the decorations for the graduation dinner and... My mom's voice was calm but firm. I'm sorry. Maya won't be attending. Pause. Oh, is she out of town? Yes. Her grandmother's health is serious and we've made arrangements for treatment in Beijing. Another pause. Oh dear. That's unfortunate. But maybe after the surgery. My work schedule is tight, my mother interrupted smoothly, and Maya's preparing for college. It's best we keep it small this year. Well, I'll let Brandon know. He'll be disappointed. My mom offered a polite chuckle. Tell him not to wait up. That night in the hotel, I sat beside Grandma's bed while she dozed off after her evening meds. I opened my phone, scrolled through my photo gallery. There was a time Brandon's face had been everywhere. No. I had to swipe several times before he even appeared. And when I did pause on an old photo of us, sitting under our favorite tree sophomore year sharing a notebook and fries, I didn't feel pain anymore. Just distance. Not the kind that comes from miles. The kind that comes from growth. Grandma's surgery was scheduled for early morning. I stayed with her overnight in the hospital room, curled up on the couch in the corner with my hoodie as a pillow. The night nurse dimmed the lights around 11 p.m. and offered me hot water for tea. I shook my head, too wired to sleep, too drained to think. But I wasn't scared. Not the way I used to be when life felt like it could crack open beneath me if someone else pulled away. But this time I felt steady. Because I wasn't waiting on anyone. I wasn't following anyone's shadow. And no matter what happened tomorrow, I knew who I was waking up as. The next day the surgery went well. Grandma's doctor smiled when he emerged from the operating room. Everything went smoothly. She'll recover well. You brought her in just in time. I wanted to cry. Instead, I let out a long breath and sat down for the first time in hours. While waiting for her to wake up in post-op, I checked my phone. Missed call. Caller ID Mrs. Ellis. I stared at it for a while. Then another message came through, this time a text. Hi Maya, sorry to bother you. Could you call when you have a moment? It's about Brandon. I didn't want to respond. But curiosity clawed at me. Not hope. Just that sick kind of instinct you can't unlearn overnight. I stepped outside into the hospital courtyard and called her back. She picked up on the first ring. Maya, thank you for calling. I hope your grandmother's surgery went well. It did. She's recovering now. That's a relief, she said with genuine warmth. Then her tone shifted. I wanted to talk to you about something. It's about Brandon. I said nothing. She took that as permission to continue. He's not doing well. I waited. He hasn't been eating much. He's barely left his room since the banquet. Skipped 2 meetings with his father's company. And she sighed. Yesterday he told us he wants to drop out and retake the college entrance exam. He said he's going to apply to Harbin. I blinked. I thought maybe you could talk to him? You're the only one he listens to. My silence stretched. Maya? She prompted. Finally I said it. Come. Final. Tell him not to. She faltered. What? Tell Brandon not to retake the exam. I won't wait. I could hear the air suck from her lungs. I understand he's upset. But I've already started planning my life. My goals don't revolve around him anymore. Maya, he's not himself, she said quickly. I know, I cut in gently. That's the problem. He hasn't been himself for a long time. Or maybe he has and I just didn't want to see it. She tried again. He's been asking about you constantly. He said he'd do anything to. I don't want him to do anything, I said. I want him to stop. There was a pause. Then a small, defeated whisper. Okay. I hope he's okay, I added. But I'm not going back. I ended the call before she could respond. My hand trembled just a little. But only for a second. Later that night, I heard a crash on the other end of a phone call. Jenna had texted me urgently asking if I'd seen what happened in the class group chat. Apparently Brandon had gone off. He'd posted a long, emotionally chaotic message about people who forget you overnight, about loyalty, betrayal, and how no one's irreplaceable. Then he'd deleted it, left the chat, blocked at least 3 people who tried to comment, and vanished. The next week Lucas messaged me. Did you hear? Brandon dropped out of the internship program. His dad pulled him from the company rotation. They say he won't come back to school until winter. I read the message once, then again, but didn't reply. Instead, I shut my phone and opened my Harbin prep materials. My dorm assignment had arrived. My schedule was mapped out. Orientation week was coming. So was a future I had built from the ground up. No more guesses. No more waiting. The day I left Beijing and returned to H-City, Mom was waiting with a fully packed suitcase. I organized everything for your move-in, she said, zipping it shut. You'll be the best-dressed girl on campus. I laughed. You're really trying to upgrade my reputation. She winked. No daughter of mine is showing up in wrinkled science fair shirts. We drove in peaceful silence for a while. Then she added, by the way, his mom called again. I didn't ask who. You already know what I told her, I replied. Just checking, she said, eyes steady on the road. Proud of you. I leaned my head against the window and whispered, I'm proud of me too. That night I stood in my room one last time. I looked around at the walls that had held my childhood. The shelf where I used to line up model planes. The desk where Brandon once helped me build a paper satellite for a school project. I smiled softly. Not sad. Just ready. If you had told me a year ago that I'd be walking the halls of Harbin Institute of Technology with a confidence I didn't have to fake, I would have laughed. But here I was. Dorm 4B, 3rd floor. Room 318. The first thing I noticed was the view. Wide windows looking out over the courtyard, trees swaying gently in the breeze, and students darting between orientation booths below like they were chasing gravity itself. Perfect launch point, I murmured, dragging my suitcase inside. Launch point, said a voice from the top bunk. You a space nerd? I looked up and met a pair of playful almond-shaped eyes and a ponytail tied with a neon scrunchie. I guess you could say that, I said with a smile. Aerospace engineering. No way. He jumped down. Me too. I'm Jia Lin, official caffeine addict, class clown, and proud daughter of two overachieving engineers who think I'm their retirement plan. I laughed, instantly liking her. Maya Thompson. And don't worry, my mom cried when I picked aerospace instead of medicine. Guess we're both disappointments, she grinned. That first week was a whirlwind. Campus tours, safety briefings, lecture introductions. Jia and I clung to each other like two satellites in sync. We met Yuki, our floor neighbor who played the violin at night like we were living in a period drama, and Ning, our sarcastic RA who once threatened to vacuum a sleep-talking roommate. By day 5 I had a nickname, Rocket Girl. By day 7 I had a new favorite routine. Morning walks to the main observatory where I'd sit alone with my coffee and sketch aircraft ideas in my journal. No texts from Brandon. No calls from his mom. Just silence. The kind I used to fear. Now I welcomed it. One afternoon after orientation seminars, Jia burst into our room holding a bright red envelope. Oh Maya, she said, wiggling her brows. You've got mail. What? I took the envelope, confused. It was addressed to me by hand. Neat, sharp lettering. No name, I muttered. Love letter, Jia said smugly, throwing herself on her bed. Calling it now. I opened it cautiously. Inside was a simple white card. They say engineers don't write poetry. But I've studied your symmetry. And I respectfully disagree. I blinked. Underneath the verse, in small letters. LH. LH. I said aloud. Jia sat up. Wait, could that be Lucas Hayes? I frowned. From orientation group C? She nodded furiously. He's in our thermodynamics section. Wears those glasses like he walked out of a K-drama. Remember? The one who asked about satellite propulsion during lunch. He'd been quiet. Polite. Always scribbling notes or helping people find the right classrooms. I remembered catching him looking at me once or twice, but I thought I imagined it. Apparently not. 2 days later I found another envelope in my locker. Your laughter travels faster than light. Through corridors, coffee shops, satellite flights. If space had a heart, I think it'd beat like yours. No signature this time. Just a tiny doodle of a rocket ship in the corner. I didn't tell Jia about the second one. But I kept it. The third letter came the day we received our first project assignments. It was folded into my notebook after class. 3 letters. 1 hope. Would you like to grab coffee with me? LH. This time I didn't hesitate. We met at the campus cafe after our propulsion systems lecture. Lucas arrived 5 minutes early, hair tousled, notebook in one hand, nervous smile already in place. Hi, he said when I walked in. You're brave, I said sitting down. Poetry and equations? He laughed softly. I figured if I failed the experiment, at least I'd do it memorably. I liked that. No pressure. No performance. Just a boy who watched the stars for the same reasons I did, because they were quiet, far, and full of potential. Our coffee turned into a walk. Our walk turned into a ritual. By the second week we were study buddies. By the third we shared playlists, formulas, and thoughts about failure. He never asked about my past. He just showed up. Every time. Meanwhile, the group chat back home had started whispering. Apparently, Brandon had found out. It started with a message from Leah. Brace yourself. Brandon just asked if you changed your application last minute. I told him nope. She's been planning Harbin since she was 12. He looked like someone punched him in the chest. Later that evening, I got a message from Jenna. He's spiraling. Told everyone you betrayed some pact. Said you never told him you were serious about applying to Harbin. I didn't respond. But I laughed. Because if that wasn't the most Brandon thing to say, accusing me of betrayal when he was the one who switched paths and assumed I'd follow. I never changed. He just never paid attention. A week later, Lucas and I were walking past the astronomy building when he turned to me and asked, "Did you always know you'd end up here?" I looked up at the sky, a soft gray canvas ready to be rewritten. "No," I said. "But I always knew where I wanted to go." "And now that you're here?" I smiled. "How I'm claiming it." He nodded. "I'm glad I found you on this campus. That made my heart do something unfamiliar, but welcome. It wasn't fireworks. It wasn't chaos. It was quiet certainty." That night as I lay in bed, I reread Lucas's first letter and tucked it into my notebook beside the Harbin acceptance email. I used to keep a photo of Brandon there. Funny how things change. I was walking out of the research lab, the autumn wind threading through my jacket when I saw him. Brandon. Standing in front of the main gate of Harbin Institute of Technology. As if he belonged there. As if the months in between hadn't happened. As if he could just show up. For a second I stood frozen on the steps. He hadn't changed much. Same tousled hair, same varsity-style jacket, same way of stuffing his hands into his pockets when nervous. But I had. And that made all the difference. He saw me before I could turn around. "Maya," he called out, his voice too familiar for the stranger he'd become. I considered walking away. I really did. But something in me, maybe the version of me that once begged for closure, stopped. So I walked toward him. Fully. Calmly. Not because I wanted to, but because I needed to finish what he never let me finish. "Brandon," I said, voice cool. "What are you doing here?" He looked like he hadn't prepared for that question. Or maybe he expected something softer. Something desperate. I needed to see you," he said. "In person." I raised an eyebrow. "You came all the way to Harbin?" He nodded. "Please. Can we talk?" I glanced around. Students were passing us, some glancing curiously. I didn't care. "Fine. 5 minutes." He looked relieved, like he'd won something. We walked to a quiet bench near the courtyard. I sat. He didn't. He paced in front of me. "Maya, I didn't know. About your dad. About the aerospace dream. I didn't realize how serious you were about it." I stayed silent. He went on. "When we were younger, I thought you were just tagging along. I mean, you followed me everywhere. I assumed that I didn't have dreams of my own." I interrupted, tilting my head. "That I was just orbiting yours?" He winced. "No, I mean, maybe I did think that. But I was wrong." I crossed my legs, keeping my expression neutral. He exhaled hard. "I was an idiot. I thought I wanted something else. Someone else. But Sierra wasn't, she wasn't you. No one is." There was. The grand confession. The thing girls wait for in movies. The part where the boy says, "I messed up. I love you. Take me back." Except this wasn't a movie. And I didn't feel flattered. Felt tired. "Brandon," I said quietly, "do you even know why I chose aerospace?" He paused. "Because you liked planes?" I gave a dry laugh. "No. Because my dad used to take me to the airfield every weekend when I was little. We'd sit on the hood of his truck and watch the jets take off. He'd tell me, 'Maya, the sky isn't the limit, it's just the beginning.'" Brandon blinked. He passed away when I was 12. Lung cancer. Fast. Brutal. But before he died, he made me promise one thing. I looked up at him, eyes steady. He said, "Don't let anyone make your world small." His shoulders slumped. I applied to Harbin for him. Not for you. Not to follow anyone. But because I wanted to reach the sky on my own terms. He opened his mouth. I didn't know. Exactly, I cut in. You didn't know. Because you never asked. Silence stretched between us. Then he stepped closer. I came to tell you I'm sorry. For everything. For mocking you. For taking you for granted. For assuming you'd follow me without question. I was selfish and stupid. I didn't deny it. And I still love you. There was. I looked at him, this boy I once thought the world of. The one who used to hold my hand during exams. The one who used to kiss my forehead after every tutoring session. The one who left me behind without looking back, and now stood here thinking words could fix what actions broke. I'm happy you found your feelings, I said evenly. But I'm not your reward for figuring it out too late. His face fell. Maya, please. Just give me a chance to make it right. I shook my head. You had 1,000 chances. And you threw every single one away. He took a shaky breath. I thought you'd wait. I did, I said quietly. For too long. He looked like he wanted to argue. To plead. But I stood up. You don't get to rewrite my story, Brandon. You're not the hero in this one. You're just a chapter I've already turned. He reached for my hand. I stepped back. Goodbye, Brandon. Then I walked away. And for the first time I didn't look back. That night I told Jia everything. The letter, the visit, the apology. She listened without interrupting, then handed me a steaming mug of tea. Sounds like a guy who saw a rocket take off without him, she said. I smiled. Too bad he missed the countdown. Lucas didn't ask about Brandon. But when I told him anyway because I didn't want secrets between us, he just nodded. He didn't deserve you, he said softly. I leaned my head on his shoulder. I know. Some apologies are just noise. They come too late, say too little and mean nothing. But knowing that meant everything. It started with flowers. A bouquet of white lilies left at the front desk of our dorm, wrapped in cellophane and tied with a crooked red ribbon. No note. Just my name written on the tag in messy handwriting I recognized instantly. I didn't take them upstairs. Instead, I handed them to the security guard and said, give these to someone who wants them. The next day was a plush astronaut toy. Then a box of chocolates. Then a handwritten letter. Maya, I know I was wrong. But I still believe in us. Please meet me. Just once. Let me say it properly. B. Jia found it taped to our door and rolled her eyes so hard I thought they might stay that way. He really doesn't get it, does he? Nope, I said, crumpling the note and tossing it into the recycling bin. But I do. That Friday it rained. Harbin didn't do soft drizzle or gentle mists. It poured heavy and fast like the sky was trying to drown something it couldn't hold in. I had just come back from an all-nighter in the propulsion lab and was halfway through removing my soaked shoes when Jia looked up from her bed, eyes wide. He's outside. I didn't need to ask who. Umbrella, she offered. I shook my head. Let him stand. We peeked from the third-floor stairwell window. There he was, Brandon. Drenched, standing with his hands in his pockets like he was making some dramatic final scene in a romance movie. But I wasn't watching a movie anymore. I was living my life. And I had already changed the channel. That night, Lucas showed up with warm soup in one hand and a ridiculous pair of matching space-themed slippers in the other. You survived launch week, he said, nudging me with his elbow as I curled up next to him on the common room couch. Celebration time. I glanced at him, this boy who had loved me from the beginning without knowing everything, but still choosing me completely. He never demanded. Never pushed. Just stood beside me, quietly orbiting until I was ready to trust again. Now he was my gravity. I took the slippers and slipped them on. They're hideous, I said. You're welcome, he grinned. By spring the Brandon rumors faded. People said he transferred again, somewhere south. Others said he dropped out entirely. A few classmates still whispered his name when they saw me, but I didn't flinch anymore. I was too busy building rockets. Graduation came like a sunrise. My name echoed through the auditorium as I walked across the stage, my aerospace diploma in one hand and my flight systems badge in the other. The crowd cheered. Cameras flashed. But all I could think about was how light my chest felt. No ghosts. No what? Just the hum of engines waiting to ignite. After the ceremony, I stood outside the observatory tower, the same one I used to visit in my first week on campus, when everything still felt unfamiliar. Lucas found me there as always. Big shot flight systems engineer, he said, holding out a wrapped box. Your first postgrad gift. I opened it carefully. Inside was a custom notebook with constellations etched into the cover. On the first page he'd written, "For the girl who never stopped looking up. May your sky always be yours." Tears burned behind my eyes, but I didn't let them fall. Instead, I leaned in and kissed him. Not because I needed saving, but because I'd already saved myself, and now I could choose who stood beside me. Later that night, I received one last message from an unknown number. It was a photo. Brandon. Alone at the airfield. The same one my dad used to take me to. Same cracked pavement. Same sky. Beneath it, 2 words, "I remember." I stared at it for a moment, then deleted it. Some memories don't need reopening. Some regrets aren't mine to hold. 3 months later, I boarded my first international flight as part of a satellite deployment project. Lucas waved goodbye at the gate, holding up a paper sign that read, "Go make the stars jealous." I laughed so hard I nearly missed my boarding call. Up in the sky, I looked out the window as the clouds parted below. The sun hit my reflection on the glass. Not the girl who followed. Not the girl who waited. But the girl who flew. He changed his course for her. I stayed on mine. And soared. The end.